One of the former designers of the iPhone has actually been warning about device addiction for quite some time now. Tony Fadell is founder and former CEO of Nest. He's a veteran in the tech industry. He joins me now live from Paris. And thank you so much for joining us here on the program. Let's talk about tech addiction because, yes, you have been very, very vocal about how you think Apple should tackle device addiction. What do you think of Apple's new feature, this screen time tool, and is it enough?
Well, I think what Apple released yesterday was a great first step in actually battling and bringing awareness to this issue. It's great to hear Tim Cook also speaking about his own personal experiences with the tools and his own phone usage. So yes, they've done a great job with screen time as a first step. But from when I look at it, I think the tools can go a bit farther.
It's a great first step. They should follow up on it. How?
Well, specifically, if you look at it right now, they're tracking, they're giving you your data for both your iPad and your iPhone usage, but they're not including computers. Your laptop, you use, adults or older kids, they can spend between 30 and 50% of their day on their computers, browsing, emailing, messaging, playing games, and what have you. That needs to be part of that same digital data to allow us to see how much consumption we have per day.
Got it. So you have to assess screen time across multiple screens, across multiple devices. Now, I want to ask you just your thoughts about when you were designing and inventing the iPhone over a decade ago, and did it ever occur to you just how powerful and seductive the smartphone could be?
We had no clue. This was unintended consequences. It was amazing how much it changed the way we worked at Apple even just after the first 6 months or a year when we had the devices in our hand. Our world's changed, but we had no idea once the App Store was added. And then there's, good and bad apps out there. But when the bad apps took hold and really got us to be addicted in many ways that we had no idea that would happen.
So from a design perspective, what more should device makers, designers, the tech industry do to help us use our devices a little bit less?
Sure. I think the first thing, obviously, is we have to have data, transparency on the data like we're seeing from Apple. Also, Google has a similar kind of thing. We need to have controls. You're seeing Apple putting in really great controls, as well as Google in that regard. But what we also need is we need education. We need to teach people about what good apps look like, what bad apps look like. We need something that kind of is similar to how we think about food: sugars, fats, starches, proteins. How do we think about these applications and how they affect us inside? Just like we think about our food. What's the right caloric intake? What's a vegetarian in the digital world? What's a flexitarian in the digital world? These are kinds of things that we need to answer. And what we also need to have is Apple needs to open up the things that they introduced yesterday to third parties. Third parties need to be able to take that data and be able to create new controls based on what they have, so we can create different solutions for different people at different ages. If you think about it, there is not one size fits all. This is, once again, a great first step from Apple, but we do need to let the community go off and figure out other things to do with this data to help people beyond what Apple's done already.
Absolutely, and amen to that. There needs to be greater transparency, and as you point out, the same way that there's junk food, there's junk technology. There needs to be greater literacy in that. Unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there. But Tony Fadell, thank you so much for joining us here on the program and sharing your thoughts with us, and do take care.